It takes a lot for me to say this, especially in public, but I saw a man, tall, good-looking, long white robes, and an auburn beard, and the most empathic eyes that I have ever seen, ever. And he kept beckoning to me. I now know who that man was because we met on the other side again. But again I heard the angelic voices calling me home. Come home, you are tired. Come home and rest. Eventually, that's all I needed. I was so weak, so tired, I said yes, which of course proves that nothing can happen to you unless you allow it to happen to you.
In an instant, bang, there's three beings there. And they have on the gowns like you see a monk wear, with the long sleeves that hang down and the hood that comes up. And they look like they're woven with silk. Like they're woven with the fineness of silk, but it's silver, like the metal silver. And they're each looking downward. And as they lift their heads up, they looked identical, but they only had vague features. Best described, if you've ever seen the special effects they do in Hollywood, where they take the sheet of vinyl and they stretch it against their faces, and you only see the outlines of their eyes and their nose and their mouth. And each one was identical. And no hands sticking out of the robes and no feet. And I thought, well, this is cool. Okay, I wonder who these people are. I'm just floating along and taking it all in. And when one of them went to speak, it was all three of them spoke in unison, and they were in harmony, and it had a slight echo effect to it. As I started to say something to them, they spoke first, and they said, I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm dead. I was to tell them, I'm dead, I'm finally dead. You know, oh, thank goodness, I don't have any pain. In fact, I feel good, this is all right. This is gonna be fun. And in unison, they said, you're not dead, Don. Just that. And I looked around and see where that came from. And I realized it's them. I said, did you say that? And he said, again, in unison, you're not dead, Don. Just as serious as can be. And I said, look, I don't know who you are, but I'm in this tunnel talking to you, and my body's down there. I said, now, that's dead. And they laughed in unison, and you're not dead, Don. Okay. I said, I don't know who you are, but you don't know shit. You don't know anything. What are you doing here? You don't mean I'm not dead. I am dead. My body's down there. I'm up here. And they laughed. And I said, you're not dead, Don, and you're not going to die. And I said, oh, okay. Look, I don't know who you guys are, but y'all don't know shit. You don't know anything. I'm dead, man. I'm in this tunnel with you. I said, now, call your boss. I said, get your boss up here, because you don't know anything. And again, they laughed, and the more they would laugh, the angrier I would get. And the angrier I would get, the more they would laugh. So finally, it seemed like, this went on for 5 or 10 minutes. I said, I don't know who you are, and I don't know why you keep telling me that I have to go back, but I'm not going. No, they're not. I wasn't going to die. I said, don't tell me I'm not dead. I am dead, and you don't know what you're talking about. And so I said, look, get your boss. I don't know who you are, but get your boss. Get someone here who knows what's going on. And they said, Don, you have to go back. I said, no, not going back. That's not going to happen. I said, and then I got angry. And that body hurts. And I'm not going back in that body, and you can't make me. I said, no, I was created with free will, and I'm exercising it right now. I said, I'm not going back in that body, and there's no way you can make me. And they were persistent. You have to go back. I said, no, I don't. I don't have to do anything. I said, you want me to go back in that body? You bring Christ here, and you have Christ tell me to go back in that body, because that's the only way I'm going back in that body. And bang, in an instant, there was Christ. And he had on a gold robe, similar to theirs, with a gold sash, the hood back. And he looked just like the pictures in the Bible. And whether that's the way I expected him to look is why he looked that way, I don't know, but that's how he looked to me.
The next memory I have, the next conscious memory I have, is standing at a doorway in space, deep space. There are stars around. The doorway is maybe 15 feet tall, and there are 6 beings of light standing in the doorway facing me. It looks somewhat like they're wearing robes. There's a silhouette. The silhouette of them is bright white light, and then it radiates out into a neon blue, but not the harsh light of neon. It was a very peaceful, incredibly wise, loving, deep blue. And I couldn't see the middle of them. It was darkness, like a void. And it wasn't a scary darkness, like a hooded figure. It was just something with my perception wasn't at the level to actually observe them. I could only see what was emanating off of them. And what was emanating off of them was incredibly peaceful. And they clearly had a commanding presence. And I felt very honored to be in front of them.
And Jesus Christ himself walked into my living room now. And he looked exactly like I had seen the pictures in the books and the Bibles. He was a Caucasian man with shoulder-length brown hair and a short brown beard. He had brown eyes. He was wearing a white robe. He had, I believe it was like a blue second robe over his tunic.
And as I started to come about with this energy, this warmth, it overtook me, and I realized it was coming from behind me, this light, this warmth. And so I turned around to see I turned around to see this old guy, and he was all dressed in white. He had white pants and a white shirt and like a white robe with kind of a stole or kind of a robe looking thing on his shoulders. He had very, very pink skin. His skin was so pink, it glistened, like literally light was coming out of it. He almost had kind of a Santa Claus type look, long white beard, long white hair. And as I saw him, my first instinct was that he must be God. And as soon as I even thought that, he started to chuckle, and he just like shook his head, and he's like, "No, son, I'm not God." And I was raised Christian, and so my next assumption is that he must be Christ. He must be Jesus Christ. So I thought that. As soon as I thought that, he shook his head and smiled again, said, "No, son, I'm not Jesus Christ." He says, "I'm here to be your guide."
So I made my way through the light, through the intersection, and then I was in a garden. And it was just like that. And I'm walking around in this beautiful, beautiful garden, with different pathways and just the most amazing plants that were there, flowers and trees, and there's this meadow and a lake and these Romanesque big Greek gazebos. And in the distance, I could see that there were other people walking and meeting others, and I'm still trying to figure out, where am I? And suddenly my guides, I had 3 guides walk up to me, and began talking to me.
And there were beings there. There were these 3 robed guys, and they were overjoyed to see me. They were kidding around and they were bouncing around, and I had known them forever. And there was another guy, and he was in charge, kind of, and he was this tall, wispy guy. And the 3 guys kept asking me questions. They kept saying, "How was it? What can you tell us? What did you learn?" And they were giggling and stuff. And one of them turned to the others, because I was very confused. And one of them turned and laughed and said, "He doesn't remember us." And they giggled some more, and it was quite entertaining. It was like I was home with my best friends, and they were having a good laugh at my expense.
I was suspended in this huge Colosseum. I mean, it was absolutely massive. And I was suspended in the air, and either side of me was these huge columns. Coming up to the Colosseum, there must have been about 1,000 steps. I have no idea. It's difficult to say. The place was just so huge. Behind me was a presence the whole time. I had 360-degree perception, and I had this dominant presence behind me. And if I hadn't had this 360-degree perception, I would have assumed that my back was against one of these columns, because that's just how dominant it was up there. And another interesting point of this realm was the light. It was this incredible bright light. So even I talk about this Colosseum, it was still made of light and energy. So it's not like in Rome you've got this beautiful Colosseum. So it's like that in terms of the shape. It's made of light as opposed to marble. Again, it's very difficult to explain. The only way that I've learned how to explain the light is when you're in the science classes and and you have a prism, and you shine a beam of light through the prism, and then the other side, you've got this whole rainbow that comes out of it. So I was seeing that simultaneously. You have this beautiful light everywhere, but there's color within the light. It's the same, you know, we've got a pearl within an oyster, a pearl in an oyster. It's that beautiful white color, but there's a color within it. So you're just seeing that simultaneously. So this was the energy around me, this beautiful white light. And then in front of me, there were 4 beams of energy, and I knew instantly who they were. And the energy, they were like vibrating at a frequency that, I mean, they all looked so similar, but I just knew who they were. So the first 3 beams of energy that were in front of me were the 3 children that had died on the ward that week. 2 of those children were infants, and the one was a 3-year-old girl. But I knew instantly who they were, and I knew everything about them. But I knew instantly who they were, and I knew everything about them. Nothing to do with their earthly life, just everything about them and their spiritual journey at that time. The communication there is beyond telepathy. It is just, you get this information, this knowing straight away. It's just this connectedness that is just amazing. And it just makes so much sense when you're there, that everything is just connected by this energy, this light. So that was the 3 beams of light initially that I saw. Then there was the 4th being, and I'm talking about this as in it was a chronological order, but everything just happened simultaneously. You just get it all in this one go, but I'm just trying to narrate it in a way that's understandable. The 4th beam of light was my best friend, and the communication with him was very different to it was with the three children. It was, of course, absolute joy. We couldn't believe that it was like seeing my best friend in this energy form, no physical features at all. It's just this beam of light.
And as we went around the curve in the river and went a little further, there was a huge opening. And in the center of this opening was an enormous building that looked very much like, if you think of Greek or Roman temples. And it had the huge white columns in front, and a huge number of stairs, just so many stairs leading up to the doorway into this building. And it shone like everything else, and was so white that it was almost like pearlescent.
I opened up my eyes, and I was in the most beautiful marble building, beautiful white marble that I had ever seen in my life. I was looking inside, and there was a woman who was sitting there. She was wearing a purple gown. For some reason, everybody over there that I saw seemed to be wearing some kind of a tunic or a robe or a gown. And my guide said that's because that's the most comfortable. But I saw people wearing jeans and t-shirts, so you can really wear whatever you want.
It's amazing because I had another guest, and I think it was Dr. O'Connor that was on about a month ago or so, and he saw partially very similar to what you saw, and I think he felt like he was back in like Rome or something, Roman columns and stuff.
Yep.
He didn't get a tour like you did, and he wasn't really sure what was going on, but he saw that kind of same Roman place.
Yeah, the buildings are absolutely beautiful. And that's where the early Romans and the Greeks got the idea, is all the information, everything that we get comes from the other side first. So they were just building what they remember. That's how it was explained to me.
One thing I find interesting is you are probably the fourth or maybe fifth person who has described the Akashic Records place as Roman ruins or Greek ruins with the columns. Do you have any information like why it is designed like something of ancient Greek or Rome?
I never asked the question. I probably will ask the question and see if I get an answer. Because today I'm very much in touch with my guide, my main guide.
I could see the 12 people in front of me, and their heads were down like this, but they were talking to me like one voice, but a choir at the same time. And I thought, that can't happen. You cannot have one voice and then have a choir at the same time. It just doesn't work that way. But it does. When you're over, everything happens. So I kept listening, and they would tell me, they giggle. I would say, am I out of my body? Where am I? And they just laugh. They go, and I thought, are they laughing at me? But they never saw their faces. It was like a hood over them. But I could always see their robes and the golden rope that was wrapped around them.
So the Palladians are just a really amazing type of alien that have been here for many, many, many years. And I think for me, I just felt very connected to them. And so while I was staring at them, I remembered zeroing in and just looking very intently at their clothes. So for me, the way I describe it is they almost kind of look like monk robes, you know, those really nice monk robes, but they're very thin and they have these glistening threads of gold through them. And I couldn't make their faces out, but I could see that the shapes of their expressions were inviting, calm, loving. And anytime I would say something or I would think something telepathically, they would always turn their head and, respond to me in this way, or telepathically say that everything is fine, you're okay. And after that, I had kind of argued a little bit with, I guess it was my guide on the right-hand side. I did not see Jesus. Like I said, I didn't see any angels, but the person on the side of me, which was a being, who definitely did not have a shape, was more intent. His expressions, it wasn't a male or a female, but they had beautiful eyes, or almost like kind of greenish line, but they were like a beautiful color. And I just remember looking in their eyes and asking them if I could please stay, because this is so inviting and I feel like I'm at home. And, I was thinking to myself, I'm really tired of doing stuff on Earth. And they just said, we're not allowing you to stay. We're asking you to go home. And as soon as we started telepathically talking about my family and what I've done here on Earth, in seconds,